Okay, so let's switch to English. I hope you all have the translation ready. And thank you, Clara, for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen and let me know if there is any issue or if you can see my screen, please. But if I don't hear anything, I'm going to assume that it's working. All right, so as Clara said, I'm the founder of Science Feedback, and I'm a climate scientist by training. So climate misinformation is something that is really matters for me. And today I'm going to show you how we are using AI and big data analysis to detect and quantify disinformation in the media, especially in France. That's what we started with. Okay, so first, let me remind you a little bit about what Science Feedback is doing. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to help protect the public debate from scientific misinformation. Our goal is really to help improve the credibility of information that is available on social media and in the media. The way we work to that end is that we monitor what's trending in terms of disinformation in the media and on platform. We explain what is known in the form of explanatory articles or reviews, fact check of claims. I'm going to show you some examples now. And we also do investigations of disinformation on web platforms and in the media. And I'm going to illustrate also that in the presentation. Okay, so if you go to our website, that's what you would see on the front page. And the first item you would see are what we call insights article. And I'm going to show you what is in this kind of insight articles, this kind of explanatory articles. So if you click on the first one here on wine and the effect of wine, the climate change on wine growing, you will see that we always start these kind of articles, explanatory article, with some confusion that exists. And in that case, it was a claim that was made online about the fact that the claim was that global warming would be good because it makes the grapes riper. So, it's the claim that so far maybe it's good to have warming to have wine. So that is why we covered this topic, not really to review that specific claim, but to remind context. And if you scroll down in our article, you will find information such as the fact that we see already the warming of temperature has changed the date when we harvest grapes, but also it has negative consequences on wine potentially in the future. So this is how we kind of counter the claim without specifically debunking it, but explaining that to people who care about this topic. And the illustration here is that Southern Europe, Southern France, but also Spain and Italy will be regions where we are currently growing wine that might not be, places where we can do it in the future. So this is to, refute the idea that global warming would be good for wine growing. So this is the first format. And if you scroll on our website, this is the front page again. And if you go down, you will encounter what we call reviews. So this is more, the fact check format article. So let me click on this one on the wind turbine and the claim that they are, polluting a lot. So we see a lot of these images online that are part of kind of coordinated campaign, to try and fight against clean energy by some actors. And they emphasize, look at this pile of concrete that you need to build wind turbine. So what we do in this case is we take that claim and we precisely label the claim and explain the verdict, explain what people need to know about this topic. But then in the content of the article, we go to really use data and experts, scientists' comment and scientific references to explain really why the claim is false or misleading, which is the case here. And in that case, we show what people should do to know what pollutes more, which is to look at the entire life cycle of those different forms of energy and how much greenhouse gases emissions they emit. And you would see that here, the renewable energy kind and wind energy is showed here, usually pollutes much less than fossil fuel sources like natural gas, oil, and coal. So this is all to illustrate the kind of content that we produce on our website. But this is also the base for us to lead, larger scale analysis and data analysis and investigations. We use this knowledge that we have about false information trending online to, produce deeper researched analysis. So this is what you would find. Again, if you go on our front page and scroll down to that section on data analysis and investigations, we test and investigate different things such as scams or, the way platforms such as X respect or do not respect regulation. But today I want to show you this item here about the AI monitoring of French media. And this is what we covered under the project called Climate Safeguards. So the objective of this project was to quantify how much climate misinformation there is in the French media, on TV and radio mostly. And we also try and help the media to improve the situation. As we have seen that there are issues, we engage with the editors, with the team of journalists at the different outlets. We fact check, if you want. So one of the motivations to study mainstream media is that they are largely trusted, at least in France. 69% of French people say they trust information from TV and radio, while this figure is much lower for social media. And a lot of fact checkers, they spend a lot of time covering what is viral on social media, but there was some sort of blind spot, we thought, about what's happening in the media. So this project is led in partnership with other organizations in France and with the support of the Google News initiative via the Journalism AI project. And we have used AI, and I'm going to show you how we have used it in this project. So the scope of our study are the 18 most viewed national TV and radio channels in France. And that, when you want to monitor everything they say, because that's what we want to do, we want to be fair and compare everything that is on the media and compare all these channels in a way that is comparable and fair. So we end up having, in the first 3 months of the analysis, which we have expanded since, but we end up having more than 400,000 segments of 2 minutes. That's the elements we chop down all these TV and radio in 2-minute segments. And then we have all of these, which of course we cannot analyze by hand as humans. So we filter everything that speaks about climate with a very large list of keywords that allow us to decrease that number to only about 28,000 segments. And then we use AI. So we developed a model, basically a large language model, that we have trained on examples of everything we have fact-checked in the past, but also examples from the TV and radio of actual show when we know there was misinformation. So there is a lot of work involved in that, but once it's ready, it allows us to do this huge filtering from 28,000 to the detection of about 400 claims that are likely disinformation according to the AI model. And that is an amount of data that is much more manageable for our own experts to review, which is what we do as a next step. So we reviewed all these cases individually, and we confirmed about 128 cases of climate misinformation on the first 3 months of the study. Now, if you look at the results of what we found in these first 3 months, we see that the first alarming finding was that misinformation is observed on TV and radio all the time. Like every week, we have about 10 cases of climate misinformation. So that was a surprise for us. We didn't expect to have such a high level of misinformation. And the peaks are linked to national or international events. So for instance, when Trump was inaugurated, a lot of experts or guests, fake experts, were invited and they were making claims about climate and false claims in that case. So that's just one example, but let me dive now into the details of the kind of misinformation we have detected. And what's striking is that 97% of the cases target just two topics, very broad topics, but broadly it's energy and mobility, like electric vehicles and how we plan cities to reduce emission, these kind of things. So it's not a lot about the science of climate change itself, but more about the solutions. So that is a very striking results we found. And these are just a couple examples of misleading claim. The claim would be here that electric cars are worse than combustion engine cars, which is not the case, or that in Germany, because they use more renewable energy, that is why they need to have more coal and gas to burn, which is polluting. And in both cases, you can go and read the reviews we have published on our site. We explain why that is misleading or only part of the reality. So this is the kind of things we observe online. Now we are going to extend. I've just shown you the results of the first 3 months, but we have the 8 months of data. We are going to publish the report in October. So stay tuned if you want to be informed about this. In that report, we have more than 400 cases of climate misinformation detected and confirmed. So a lot of misinformation happened in June in France, again, due to the local context. And we are going to explain, what are the most prevalent claims and how to debunk them. And now, as a next step, we are also expanding this approach beyond France. So we have started partnering with Lupa in Brazil. So they have started analyzing data already. And we are now in the process of starting covering Spain and Poland with Maldita and Demagog. And more countries are coming to be confirmed. You can see the full analysis here. But if you want to be informed about the future release, please subscribe to our newsletter here. The link is here. And that is where you can be informed about the next release. If I have a little bit of time, I just wanted to very briefly speak about another project where we are monitoring misinformation on online platform. I think it can be of interest to this audience. So this is a very big, complex project called SciMods. I can't explain to you all the methodology, but here is one of the key results we are going to publish at the end of September. So this is like first view of the results. So basically, we collected hundreds of thousands of posts in Europe on the different platforms, and we got fact checkers to analyze a random sample of these posts to count how many are misinformation. So that's kind of easy, I think, to understand. And this is what we found on specific topics, related to potentially misinformation related topics like health, climate, the war in Ukraine. What we find is that TikTok is the platform with the most misinformation. On these topics, 20% of videos we found contain mis or disinformation. And that number is a bit lower for Facebook and Twitter, and it's the lowest on LinkedIn. So, with this kind of study, we are doing it because there are regulations in Europe that ask for platforms to reduce the spread of disinformation and decrease also the visibility of content from non-credible sources as compared to credible sources. And let me show you one last result in that same project. Here we have collected data on accounts that we have identified as sharing misinformation a lot in red versus credible accounts. So accounts from the media and these kind of accounts. So you can see in green and red credible versus misinformation. And what we are measuring here is how many interaction they get on each of their posts, right? Whenever you publish a post on Instagram, if you are a source of misinformation, you're going to receive much more interactions, comments, shares, and likes than if you are a credible media. And this is true on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, X, on TikTok, and on YouTube. So it's really like a very strong result that all the platforms favor sources of misinformation. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, leaving
Sí.
that link for you. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer.